Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 1, Text 32. Tat kathasu mahat punyam dhanyam swastyayanam shubham yatra yatrottama shloko Bhagavan giyate harihi. Tat kathasu mahat punyam dhanyam swastyayanam shubham yatra yatrottama shloko Bhagavan giyate harihi. Tat kathaso mahat punyam dhanyam swastyayanam shubham yatra yatra tamo shloko Bhagavan giyate harihi. Tat kathaso mahat punyam dhanyam swastyayanam shubham yatra yatro tamo shloke Bhagavan giyate hari. Vatkathaso mahat punyam. Dhanyam swastyayanam shubham. Yatra yatrotama shloko. Bhagavan giyate harihi. Tatkathasu mahat punyam. Dhanyam swastyayanam shubham. Yatra yatra tamashloko. Bhagavan giyate harihi. Tatkathasu mahat punyam. Dhanyam swastyayanam shubham. Yatra yatrotama shloko. Bhagavan giyate harihi. Okay, we'll read transliteration. Tat kathasu. In those narrations, mahat, great, punyam, pious, dhanyam, glorious, swastyayanam, auspicious, shubham, all good, yatra, whenever, yatra, wherever, uttama shlokaha, the Lord who is known as uttama shlokaha, he who is described by transcendental literature, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Giyate, is glorified, Harihi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Any literature or narration in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka, is described and glorified is certainly great, pure, glorious, auspicious and all good. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading all over the world simply by describing Krishna. We have published many books including Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in 17 volumes, 400 pages each, as well as Bhagavad Gita and the Nectar of Devotion. We are also publishing Srimad Bhagavatam in 60 volumes. Wherever a speaker holds discourses from these books and an audience hears him, this will create a good and auspicious situation. Therefore, the preaching of Krishna consciousness must be done very carefully by members of the Krishna consciousness movement, especially the sannyasis. This will create an auspicious atmosphere. Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So actually, the start of this chapter itself, Shukadeva Goswami is actually describing all the different creations of Manu. So actually he starts by saying Shri Rajo Vacha Swayambhu Yashe Guru Vamso Yam Vistarat Shrutaha Yatra Vishwa Srijam Sargo Manu Nanyan Yvadasyanaha. So in order to understand the whole aspect of devotional service also, Parishit Maharaj also wants to understand the dynasty, because in this chapter later actually Gajendra Moksham pastime is talked about. So actually how does it work? So actually in one day of Brahma, as we know, it is called one kalpa. And one kalpa actually equals to 4.32 billion years. So in each kalpa there are 14 manvantaras. And in each manvantara there is one Manu who is assigned actually for that particular manvantara. So this current manvantara is Vivaswan Manu's manvantara. And in each manvantara actually lasts for about 306,720,000 years actually. So in that there are 71 Chatur Yugas which happen. The current Kali Yuga which we are actually there is the 28th cycle of this Chaturvyuha, and this is described in the multiple shlokas from the start of this chapter actually. So right now we are in the Vivaswan Manu's Manvantara, and in that this is the 28th Kali Yuga. So as we know, after every Chaturvyuga there is a rotation: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara, Kali Yuga, and again the next this will happen. But also actually it is described in other Surya Siddhanta and other places as well that between each Manvantara there is a period of complete dissolution, partial dissolution, which is about 4,800 years. So the first Manu in this Kalpa is actually Swayambhu Manu. Then there is Swarochischa Manu. Then there is Uttama Manu. Then there is Tapas Manu. Then Sraivata Manvantru, Chakshusha Manu. And then this is Vaivasvan Manvantru actually. So when we actually generally we do Sankalpam, we say Shweta Varaha Kalpe, Vaivasvada Manvantare. So when we say that, when we do for Atithi and Nakshatra, that is how actually we chant. So Shweta Varaha Kalpaha, in this Kalpaha, Varaha Avataram has taken place. So there are different categories of actually avatars which takes place actually. So Sri Krishna comes, but also his direct and indirect potencies also come. One is Purusha Avataras, then there is Leela Avataras, then there is Guna Avataras, there is Manvanta Avataras, there is Yuga Avataras and Shakti Avesha Avataras. So generally what is Leela Avatara? Leela Avataras could be aspects of pastime incarnations, you know. We can say Narsimha, Varaha, even Narada, Kurmas, they are indirect, direct incarnation which pastimes are there. And this list is not to a few things, it is very, you can say, elaborative. Then there is Guna Avataras. Guna Avataras are that which are described by clear classification of, we say, mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. So we say Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. But one thing should understand that doesn't mean that God of goodness, passion, insurance means they are in that, they are controlling or they are responsible for it actually. So generally we say that Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma is for mode of passion, creation. Shiva, Rudra is for Tamo Guna, is for destruction. And Vishnu is for mode of goodness, Satvika Guna. Then there is Manvantara Avatara. So as I said, in Brahma's day there are 1,000 Chaturyugas. And each Kalpa has actually 14 Manvantaras. So in even of these, sometimes what happens is a responsible person is not available. So Yagya, Vibhu, Satyasena, Hari, Vaikunta, Ajita, Veshwakshena, there are different people who actually come, and Bhagavan sometimes himself takes in these incarnations. Now also for each Manvantara, it is described there are Saptarishis, which must have heard. So every Manvantara has a different set of Saptarishi. So for the Vaivasvana Manvantara, we have Vashishta, Kashyapa, Atri, Jamadagni, Gautama, Vishwamitra, Bharadwaja. Like for the first Manu, Swayambhu Manu, Atri, Angirasa, Pulaha, Pulastya, Kratu, Marichi, Vashishta. So every creation in the Kalpa and in the Manvantara, certain rishis are actually responsible for certain duties actually. So this is how actually it is described in each of the shlokas actually, that how, you know, in the last couple of, this is the 32nd shloka, but actually it is described that how the entire cosmic manifestation actually is actually by Bhagavan. So Mayam Vyadusa Chaktya Kaivalya Stitha Atmanihi. So it means although externally energy belongs to Sri Krishna, but you know, it is very difficult to understand. So Bhagavad Gita says, Bhaktya Mam Abhijananti Yavan Yasyami Chatvataha. So it means one who wants to understand Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, must take to the platform of Bhakti. And the Bhakti is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandyam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So this is the way to actually understand what is devotional service, what is creation. Now actually, if we look in this Manvantara, actually as in this shloka, very nicely actually Prabhupada has written, right, that the preaching of Krishna consciousness must be done very carefully by members of the Krishna conscious movement, especially the sannyasis. And you know, we can see actually how behavior of Prabhupada and even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has actually explained what should be. Now also in each of these manvantaras, many a times what has happened is Krishna himself takes into the birth of a particular, devata or adi devata, and to be born. Like even as we know in Bhagavad Gita, Ivam Vivasvate Logan, he explains this to Vivaswan, then to Ikshvaku. He explains. So sometimes what happens is actually, if no qualified individual is present in a manvantara, then actually also Sri Krishna himself takes that manvantara avataram. That is the definition of manvantara. So as we can see. Now other important thing is this, that actually if you see in this shloka, as Parikshit Maharaj is praying to explain this, what happens is sometimes the Rakshasas and other people are trying to attack, in terms of the Devatas and Rishis. So generally, Satyasena in one of the Manvantara, actually Sri Krishna comes and protects actually. So one should understand from all this Manvantara incarnation that the Devatas or Adi Devatas are actually there to uphold the Vedic principles and authority. Whereas Asuras and those who are not in the mode of Sattva, Rajas and completely in Tamas, they are there against the Vedic authority, actually speaking. So very nicely actually Prabhupada has written actually that, in one of the purports in this chapter, that many times we tend to look down a little bit about Adi Devatas and Devatas, but actually they are there to uphold Vedic authority. That is why they are Devatas. Like for example, right, sun is just a simple example. If sun doesn't rise and set at the right time, he is answerable to Indra and then to Sri Krishna himself. So because of sun, everything revolves. Even our devotional life and spiritual life also involves actually. So that is how we should understand. We are there to be in this bhulokam and actually follow, whereas Devatas are there to implement, to help us to actually do it. So very nicely actually Sanatana Goswami is wonderfully described actually in the glories of Sri Goloka. And actually in one of the conversations actually between Uttara and Parikshit Maharaj, actually very wonderfully there is the shloka, and I will read and explain this actually. Krishna Bhakti Rasam Bhode Prasadat Badarayanehe Parikshit Uttara Parshve Nivishto Srau Sham Agnasaha. So actually it says that by mercy of Sukadev Goswami, I stayed by the side of Parikshit and Uttara Devi and directly heard from them. And this is the glory of Goloka, and how a Bhakti Yoga, a Prapanna means someone who follows, can actually attain this. Sri Krishna Karuna Sara Patra Nirdhara Sat Katham Shrutva Bhut Paramananda Purna Tava Pitamahi. So it says Sri Krishna, the mercy of Sri Krishna, the best object, the Nirdhara, which is the determination. This is actually very, very pleasing. So, as described further, he says, Srimad Uttarovacha, Kaminam Punya Kartranam, Trailokyam Grihinam Padam, Agrahanam Chatasrodhvam, Sthitam Lokam Chatustayam. So, it says that in the three worlds, all these worlds are for materialistic householders who perform pious deeds. But above these four worlds, there are those which are not for householders. So if we know the 7 planetary systems, Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, Maharjana, Tapaha, so and Satyaloka. So householders wish to enjoy these fruits of this work. They may be in these 3 planets, and that is all of us. But ones who have no desire for material desires, by performing prescribed duties, they may go to Maharloka and other planets. And when their hearts become pure, they may get liberated. And this is actually quoted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 24, text 29. Swadharam nishtha sata janma bhihi puman virinchatam eti tatha param himam avyakritam bhagavatotha vaishnavanam padam yataham vibhudva kalatyaye. So person who executes his occupied duty properly for 100 births, as we know, may become qualified to attain the post of Brahma, which most Bhagavatas have no desire for. And he can also become qualified to approach as Lord Shiva. But a person who is directly surrendered to Lord Sri Krishna in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to the spiritual planets. So but they say Lord Shiva and Lord demigods attain these planets after destruction of this material world. So the people who are not householders are the Naistika Brahmacharis, Vanaprasthas, and who are actually not householders, who are Naistika Brahmacharis, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. They attain higher lokas, and from there they eventually go back to the spiritual world directly. So one should understand that these planets, Bhur Swaha, are Bhoga planets. But once when one goes to elevated planets, it is not that Mahar and all those places are only for material enjoyment. Tapoloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka, Brahma, they are only meditation and pure devotional aspect of life. They are not contaminated. The way it is, that is, the lower we go in the planetary system, the more it becomes contaminated in other Rajogunaha. The more higher we go, it becomes higher in Sattva Gunaha. And once you go beyond Satyaloka, which is to the spiritual realm of Sri Goloka Vaikuntha, that is Shuddha Sattvam, there is no tinge of any material aspect even present at all, actually speaking. So it says that Kechit Kramena Muchyante Bhogan Bhukt Varcher Adishu Labhante Yataha Sadhyo Muktim Jnana Parahiye. So some, after enjoying these planets or staying there, these renowned souls devoted to transcendental knowledge attain liberation at once. And actually this is what Sanatana Goswami says, that Archihi is actually the demigod of fire. And other planets there are in this, there is a circle in Bhumandala which is called Shishumara circle. And this is again described in Srimad Bhagavatam actually. So the Lord's devotees may have material desires, but once they become purified, they actually directly go to Sri Goloka Vindavana actually. So the devotees, it says, Vaikuntham Durlabham Muktei Sadrananda Chidatmakam Nishkama Yetu Tad Bhakta Labhante Sadhya Evata. The devotees have no material desires at once, attain blissful spiritual realm of Vaikuntha, which even the liberated souls cannot attain actually. So we can see that Sanatana Goswami is actually quoting a lot of description of the spiritual planet and how one may ascend. As I said, if one has pure unalloyed devotional service, one will immediately quit his body and go back to the spiritual abode. There are many stalwart examples we can say. Like we can use Tukaram. As we know, Tukaram, he was ready to quit his body, and from the abode of Sri Krishna himself, the Vimana come, he made him sit and he went back to the spiritual abode. So there is no tinge, zero tinge. So how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually wonderfully describes. So, as we know, this week, 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks ago, there was Snan Yatra, week ago, in actual Jagannath Puri. And next week, there will be Gundicha Marchana on the 26th. Though across the world, everyone celebrates Jagannath Rath Yatra, but actual Gundicha Marchana in Jagannath Puri is taking on 26th. And the Rath Yatra is actually on the 27th. So, wonderfully, nicely, actually, when the pastime of actually, it is said that when Ramananda Raya and they are all in Jagannath Puri, so it says actually, Eka Sange Dui Jana Kshetra Yabe Aila Ramananda Raya Tabe Prabhure Milila. So the king and Ramananda Raya returned together to Jagannath Puri, and Ramananda Raya went to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So naturally, Pratapa Rudra, as we know, in great anxiety, could not see the Lord. So he requested Sri Ramananda Raya, to arrange a meeting to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Sri Krishna. He is coming to give mercy. So Ramananda Raya requested Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he says actually that Ramananda Raya Prabhupaya Kaila Nivedana Ekabara Prataparudreya Dekahaha Charana. So he says that, please can you show your lotus feet to the king at least once, actually. So it is a very wonderful thing. See, one should read from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, though we say time and circumstance, but see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies. Prabhu kahe Ramananda kaha vichariya rajake milite yuyuha sannyasi hana. He says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies, Sri Ramananda, you should make this request after duly considering whether it is befitting for a sannyasi to meet a king. So, one should follow, we say time, circumstance, things happen, of course, in terms of preaching. But see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies. This is actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words. Rajara milane bhikshukera dui loka nasa paraloka rahu loka kare upahasa. If a mendicant meets a king, this world and next world are both destroyed for the mendicant. Indeed, what to say for the next world? In this world, people will joke if a sannyasi meets a king. You know, of course, sometimes we have to come in contact with different people and those things happen. Even Prabhupada meant. But there is a very fine line and distinction, actually. So, in the purport, actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that if there is a white cloth, there is a black dot, only the black dot will be visible. No one will understand the whiteness of the cloth. That is how perception matters. So that is why those who are in renounced order, who are either in Vanaprastha or in spiritual realm, should be very cognizant and understanding that a Tridandi sannyasi is actually by word, thought and deed. Actually, thought, word and deed. That is why it's called Tridandi. The thought itself, as Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaropastha Vegam. So, in order to become Goswami or Guru, thought itself should be purified. Because one will only say, for example, just a simple material example. Even if, let's say, I want to buy something for Krishna, this is a spiritual transcendental example. If I want to buy flower, you should have a thought. Oh, how beautiful Krishna will look, Radharani will look if I buy this flower. What color of flower? That will actually incorporate to a word. It's a thought in a word. And then you actually go activity. So similarly, it is very important. That's why actually he says, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so important. Actually, he says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu kahe, Ami manushya ashrame sannyasi, kayo mano vakye vyaya hare bhayavasi. He says, when Ramananda addressed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu objected saying, I am not Supreme Personality but an ordinary human being. Therefore, I must fear public opinion in three ways: mind, body and words. So, as we say, Abhajanti mamudha manushim tanumashritam. As even Krishna says, because when you come in a particular environment, we will end up having the effect of the environment. Like for example, when we come in a temple, in a spiritual place, our consciousness gets amplified and purified. So similarly, if we go in a place which is not, we are still not Satchidanandam Vigraha, that nothing can touch us. Krishna is Satchidanandam Vigraha, but we are not actually. So this is the reason why every person, not just sannyasi, even grahastha, vanaprastha, brahmachari, should be very careful actually speaking. And he says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Shukla Vastre Masibindu Yaichena Lukaya Sanyashira Alpa Chidra Sarva Loke Gaya. As soon as general public finds a little fault, they will advertise it like wildfire. And that's what he says actually. A black spot, this is words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a black spot of ink cannot be hidden on a white cloth. It is always very prominent. What his example is for us is, we may do a lot of devotional service, we may chant, but we must make sure that black dot doesn't stick and come to us. Our consciousness should be purified. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhavama Davagni Nirvapanam. That is how we should be. Tranadapi Suni Chena. So, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still very merciful. So actually he explains that if not the king, at least why not you bring the son? See, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows that indirect mercy can also be given, and the son and the father will still benefit. So it is revealed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Now these people may think differently in today's world, but this is what Shastra says. Though we live in a modern world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words are Atma vai jayate putraha e shastra vani putrera milane yena milibe apani. It is indicated in the revealed scriptures. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's golden words, that son represents the father. Therefore, the son's meeting with me would be as good as the king's meeting with me. This is how Shastra says. It does not mean, I know many people will question, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Shastra saying? In Vedic scriptures, actually, and Shastra, importance is given to everything. Now, many people will have a different view in today's modern world, saying, what about the daughter? Actually, before this only, it is said in Upanishads that Matru Devo Bhava and then Pitru Devo Bhava. So first respect is always given to woman and mother, and then only to father. Actually, that is how the Vedic tradition works. So anyway, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on seeing, so the son's, Prataparudra's son actually, he is dressed actually in a yellow cloth. So Pitambara dhare ange ratna abharana Sri Krishna smarane tena haila udipana. So the prince is dressed in golden cloth, jeweled ornaments, and anyone who saw him, he looked like Krishna. So immediately when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Prataparudra's son, he said, E Mahabhagavata Yanhara Darshane Vrajendra Nandana Smriti Haya Sarve Jane. So you can see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees Krishna in everything. Yes, Achintya Veda Veda Tattvam. Even Krishna is present here in every immaterial and material object. But of course, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela and Kripa actually, that he can remember like this. So even in Anubhasya, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati says that a materialistic mistakenly accepts the body and the mind as a source of material example actually. So this is why we say that Sachidananda Vigraha. So even Katha Vinash Upanishad says, Nayam Atma Pravechena Labhyo Ne Medhaya Na Bahuna Shrutena Yam Evaisha Vrunate Tena Labhyas Tasyaiva Atma Vivrunate Tanum Swam. So Supreme Personality of God is not obtained by expert explanations, by intelligence. He is only revealed when he chooses to reveal himself, and only by devotional service. This is the most important thing. Sabari only gave him little bit of fruits which are plucked and already tasted. That is called pure unalloyed devotional service, without any expectation for anything actually. That is what actually Sri Krishna wants. Even Rama, when he came, that is what he wanted. Hanuman, unalloyed pure devotional service, without any expectation for anything actually. So the living entity is entangled in material existence due to lack of spiritual vision. So actually Bhakti Siddhanta Thakura has sung in a Kalyana Kalpatru, Samsare Asya Prakriti Bhajiya Purusha Abhimane Mari. When the living entity comes to the material world, he thinks himself as the enjoyer and he becomes more entangled. So Ahara Nidra Bhaima Itanamscha, this process continues. So only when we chant Krishna's name, then we can actually. So of course in the Leela, as soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Prataparudra's son, Prabhu Sparshe Rajaputrera Haila Prema Vesha Sweda Kampa Ashtu Stamba Pulaka Vishesha. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is embodiment of all the qualities of devotional service. All the symptoms are simultaneously present. Not like for us. We may experience bliss when we see Krishna, we chant. But for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are all simultaneously always present. But when he chooses, it is not that it's unmanifested, it is always manifested. When he chooses to reveal this to us, then only we can see it. That is how it's actually. So, similarly, so soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced, all the symptoms of trembling, tears, jubilation were actually experienced by the sun himself. The best example, as we know, is if we take a hot iron and we put it into a flame, it will also become as hot and kind of get the similar quality of the flame or the fire. So the boy started chanting Krishna, Krishna, and seeing his bodily symptoms, even everyone started. So Krishna, Krishna kahe, nache karaya rodana, tanra bhagya deki shlaga kare bhakta gana. So even everyone was ecstatic actually seeing this. And when Ramananda Roy took actually Prataparudra back actually to his father, even when the king embraced him, even he actually got the same thing. So we can see that this pastime comes, and further than that, actually the Rath Yatra festival comes. So I was saying that the Gundicha Marjana happens actually next week, 26th. It happens there only one day before actually the actual Jagannatha temple. So we can see that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with everyone, he instructs that, right? So see, the king explains the order, and Ramananda says, Tamara rogya seva nahe mandira marjana, eka leela kara ye tomara mana. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting to you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. So we can see that in Jagannath Puri also today also, though many times in the other times in the Sri Mandira is where actual Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra stay. And after the Snan Yatra, they are in seclusion to recover from their fever or whatever they do. And then they come back to the Rath Yatra, and from the Ratha they go to the Gundicha temple. But the day before actually everyone goes to clean the Gundicha temple. And it is a very beautiful pastime where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with all his followers, and even to this day, everyone is allowed to come into the temple and clean. Even those who are of non-Indian origin are actually allowed into the Gundicha temple to clean actually. So we can see that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleaned everything inside the temple, right? Bhitara mandira upara sakala majila, simhasana maji punya sthapana karila. So if one who has been to Gundicha temple, actually there is a raised platform actually about 4 feet. So you can go there and you can even climb everywhere possible before the deities come. Everyone is allowed to clean. You put water, you put pots. And this is where Chetom Darpana Marjanam. Just like cleanliness and Saucham, we come to a temple which is clean. But our heart should also be clean. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by this Leela and pastime, is actually telling all of us to actually make sure that our hearts are clean. Just like, for example, whenever we get up in the morning, if we want to get something new into us, we clean it. Similarly, if Krishna has to come into our hearts, we also have to purify. We cannot be 100% in that state. But at least whatever we can, whenever we can, we should chant Sri Krishna's name. We should offer flower. We should offer fruits to him. We should be devoted to his lotus feet. That will purify actually. So we can see that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is engaged in this pastime. And very wonderfully you can imagine the golden complexion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, effulgent. So described by Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wonderfully, that dhuli dhusara tanu dekhite shobhana kahan kahan ashru jale kare samarjana. The beautiful body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was covered with dust and dirt. In this way it became transcendently beautiful. You can best use example like gold dust. Actually, that is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's effulgent look, and when you have that dust, it also becomes like gold dust. That is the vision one should have actually. So, and of course, as cleaning this, one can imagine Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is shedding tears. So his tear of separation is actually to be with Sri Krishna always. This cleansing of heart is actually to always, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is shedding, and even with this shedding, it is even actually flowing into other people in contact, and even they are becoming ecstatic actually. So in normal world, material contamination, if something touches, we have to wash the hand. But having Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's perspiration and tears touch, when we touch Sri Krishna, when we touch Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even we get infected with that prema actually. So we can see how beautiful this pastime of Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happens. And so Gundicha temple, of course, it is called as a garden house of Jagannath, right? And this is where, so except for the 9th day actually, so Jagannath remains here and he comes. So generally the Rath Yatra, as we know, next week, it starts on the Dvitiya, on the second lunar Shukla Paksha of Ashadha Mas. So as I said, one day before, whole Gundicha temple is cleaned, and then the Rath Yatra comes. And there are many wonderful festivals which happen part of the Gundicha temple. There is there's a festival called Hera Panchami where Lakshmi Devi is brought actually from, because Sri Mandira, as we know, is the actual place where Sri Lakshmi Devi resides. And for those who have visited Jagannath Puri or tasted actual Jagannath Puri Prasad, we know Sri Lakshmi Devi personally cooks for Sri Jagannath. So that day actually she comes, she leaves the Sri Mandira and she comes actually to on Hera Panchami day to see Jagannath and basically request him actually to come back to Sri Mandira. And that's how after that the rituals, there is the Bahuda Rath Yatra, the return Yatrata which takes place. So we can see wonderfully how in this Leela Avataram and how pastime is described, and Yuga Avataram and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives example of how sannyasi should be, how grahastha should be. It is not that those who are grahasthas who live maybe a, when I say materialistic, we are living a material world, but we can still be spiritual and get to the goal of achieving Krishna Prema. And then also see how Gundicha temple Marjana should come. And those who have opportunity, some people I know are traveling, one should at least take the opportunity if possible to at least, like we visit different places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Mathura, one should also take the opportunity to visit Sri Jagannath Puri. If not during Rath Yatra time, at least during some other time, because for us, the pretty much the majority of half lifestyle of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was spent in Jagannath Puri. So if one wants to understand the essence and mood, though we can realize from here, and nowadays with media you can see everything, but still one should visit there, because that is Haridas Thakur Samadhi. There are many other places of pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there in Jagannath Puri. So anyway, I will end today's class. You can speak glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu infinitely and Sri Krishna. Also today is Ekadashi for those who don't know. So those who want to follow can fast from grains and beans. If you cannot do everything, at least eat nuts, fruits. If you can't do that much, to at least don't eat rice, eat whatever, right? At least avoid rice. So anyway, I'll just stop here if any comments, questions. So.
My main question is, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, someone introduced to king, so what is the significance of not meeting any sannyasis to the king or aristocratic family members?
See, that as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that naturally we see that even in other, I would say, acharyas have come after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in different sampradayas, right? Even Prabhupada, they have met. But one should know, see, we cannot equate. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can never be contaminated. It is an example for us also. It's not just sannyasis also. After all, a grahastha should also be not a grahamedi. Should be like a sannyasi. Naturally, you and I, we work in a material profession. Being very practical, right? We work in a corporate environment. We meet people. But we should be very cognizant. The most important thing is to be cognizant, to know where one has to see. In the end of the day, for anyone who is spiritual, I won't say just devotee, someone who is spiritual, one needs to protect what is the most valuable thing, is our purity, right? Like we eat Krishna Prasad, we come to temple, right? Not saying, so for example, it doesn't mean a king is an example or aristocrat, right? Sometimes you have to meet naturally, right? Because we are requesting something as a construction or something else, we have to meet. But you have to only restrict to that much activity. The moment we decide to associate more, or what is not required, again, the way to describe this, anukulya sankalpasya pratikulpa varjanam, means using that which is favorable to Krishna, but not unfavorable to ourself and Krishna consciousness, right? Like for example, I'm just using this as a material example only, that we may meet someone, and there are many people who are aristocratic, who are very pious and very important, but we may meet them in a professional environment or whatever could be in a normal environment. But if they ask you to associate outside the realm of that, where their activities are not in sattva gunam, that is where the problem will come, right? You understood what I mean by that?
Yeah, I got it.
So that is where we have to be cautious. But yes, there is, naturally there is a higher standard for those who are guru and sannyasis, right? Because world will say, right? One can say we don't care. That is correct. You cannot control the whole world. But one should take example from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will not get contaminated. It is only for us. The example is for all of us actually.
So because they are more into the like mode of passion and mode of ignorance, that's what we should maintain the distance.
It is, we are also not 100% fully mode of goodness. We have to admit. That's why we are in here.
Okay.
That is number one realization. I mean, yes, apart from spiritual acharyas and few other people, all of us, we also have some tinge. That's why I use Tukaram's example, right? We chant, Namna Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktihi. If we desire truly, like Shabari, this is all stalwart examples, then immediately the karma will end in such a way that Sri Krishna will take us back. But it is not very easy like that, right? Like one example I gave, that many people think differently, that during this time during Kumbh Mela, there was some, during the Mauni Amavasya, for example, right? Some people passed away. I won't say died actually. It is a very auspicious day. Now, materially, it may be viewed differently. But for those people who actually quit, their karma is finished. It is maybe loss of separation for the family people. But can you imagine, it is not, it is destiny. It is blessing of, to quit his body in Prayagraj at the Triveni in an auspicious time like that. It doesn't happen just like that, right? So why I'm using this example is because is our not contamination. We are all aspiring to get pure, and we will get there eventually. So the answer is, we can associate with people, but we should know where to draw the line actually. And that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling us to do, right? That we may preach, we may go, we may interact with people, we work in a material environment, but one should use intelligence too. Acharyas don't get corrupted, or again, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krosa Vegam, as you know the shloka. If someone says is Guru or renounced order, this is the first shloka. If someone has deviated from that, it's never a Guru only. Na? I mean, I'm not saying, it is what Rupa Goswami says. Not for us. We are all aspirants, we are servants, right? But it is also for us, because it is not like we are trying to aspire there. Our own purishness and consciousness, just like, as you know, Broji, people come to the temple, we chant, we want to do devotional service, we want to do something. So our mind should be devoted. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, that one should know what is practicality, right? I mean, One cannot, if someone goes and, how do I say this? Due to sometimes some circumstance, some people end up working in unfavorable places. If a person is so sincere, Krishna or all the different Vedic entities and devatas will help in such a way that help him get out of that situation nicely. Right? Now, it doesn't mean sometimes karmic bond is so strong. It is not very easy. So that's why we say chant and pray to Sri Krishna that you help us.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
No other
Anyone
question?
wants to ask any question? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Sri Virendra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.